Hiya folks, a little talk about driving. My driving state. I'm in a right state. The state of my driving is that I've done, over 50 hours of lessons altogether, if you count the ones I did in 2010. And I've done over 40 hours just this year with my 2 driving instructors. So yeah, I thought I was gonna pay for like 20 hours worth of lessons and then I could take my test. Now I'm over 40 hours of lessons and I've still got more lessons to come in January, but I've had my last lesson of this year. Test is booked for end of January, so we'll see how that goes. Hopefully I can get in enough mock tests before that happens to be vaguely okay with it before the test happens in Launceston. I can do most things, pretty much all things. I just can't currently do them to like a super good level yet, a super perfect level. I just need to brush up on a few things here and there basically, and hopefully I'll only need next month to do that in. And then I'm in a whole other stage of car stuff which is very confusing to me, which I dipped into the other day by going to a couple of car dealerships and going, oh wow, like everything's too expensive except for like one van that I saw there. So I'm gonna have to use like internet stuff in order to try and get the car that I need, and that's gonna have a whole other array of problems because I've got to figure out how to do insurance for like a 1-day test drive on a car that I might get but I might not get. And apparently that's easier if you do it from a garage, but all the cars in the garage are too expensive. I don't know if there are other garages around that do a lot cheaper cars, but apparently if you do a test drive from the garage runner's insurance covers the car going out for a drive with one of their customers, apparently, whereas you don't get that with someone like on FB Marketplace who's selling a car. Like, they kind of expect you to have insurance, so the only way you can really do that is you can take out like 1-day insurance from some insurance providers to do a test drive. My reason for driving is to try and get availability up so I can get a new job next year, hopefully, and I have like the window of next year and possibly a bit of the year after in order to do that before I just run out of money, because this car stuff has been insanely expensive and my family has lost me my previous job, so I have to just rely on my dwindling funds to get the car, to get the availability, to get the new job before I can have any income to do any kind of recovery. I was semi-persuaded into getting a car to do this by Max when we went walking, but also when I did interviews they were telling me I don't have the availability by using bus routes for what they want. Like, they won't hire me unless I have the availability of working on Sundays and working late evenings. So hopefully this will free me up as regards to that, and maybe some of them will consider me. I know a couple that said they'd be happy to re-interview me or take me on if I did succeed in getting a car next year, so fingers crossed that they still say that. But the reason I didn't get a car in all this time is that it's extremely expensive. It's more expensive than like getting a flat or something. So my priority was always getting a flat first, and now it seems that I need other things in order to get the flat. So I need to rejig the order of things: flat, work, car, in order to try and get that flat again, which I was flat hunting for all of last year before I lost my job. So I've just been forced back several steps and held back further from my goals by what's happened to me. But if the car does lead to the job, then I can recover. That's the only hope at the moment. I always say that my bank account has like a level that I'm not willing to go under, else I'll call it my emergency fund or my homelessness fund. And I don't want to reach that level, because once I reach that level I'm just like, I'm not going to spend hardly anything. I'm just going to like I'm going to buy bread and hardly travel anywhere and not spend on anything luxury, and I'll basically be stuck at that point. I won't be able to do anything. I can only rely on like other people after that point to stop me from degrading further, because I don't have any support structures in my life. I don't have a family who will look after me. I don't have, the family of my own. I've had 4 great chances at that, and the people who I was with didn't stay, and as a result, I think unless someone new comes along, I think I've lost those prospects of creating my own support structure in that way. So I can only really rely on friends and people giving generous chances to me to let me work for them, even though I wouldn't be able to at that point keep the car going, I think. So I'd have to put it on sawn and keep it in a garage untaxed and not be able to do anything with it until I can do something with it and drive it and take it off sawn and retax it so I can drive it. That's a whole other can of worms there. So I guess I'm quite close to the level of desperation in my life at this point because of what's happened in the past 1 year to 3 years. Between lockdowns and my family going nuts, there's not much I can really do except rely on this car and rely on people who could employ me to give me employment no matter what my situation after this. And that's all I've got, basically. And if it degrades further than that, then I'm probably looking at homelessness, being out on the streets, putting as much of my possessions as possible into storage, which I think is you rent out a fucking cargo container thing and just cram all your possessions inside it until some later date when you can open it up again because you've got a place to put it. I don't know what the fuck I'll do if that happens. Also, with driving a car, I have the fear of crashing. I've always had that. Not only is it the expense of a car that's put me off, it's I've just had dreams of driving cars and crashing them and stuff and dying from it. Just lots of dreams like that and lots of fears of that, road accidents and things. Because it looks kind of normal from the outside for all these people doing it, but it's also a very dangerous activity. You're driving this metal shell around and it just seems so unnatural to me and abnormal. If you're not a super pro, then I feel at some point you're just going to crash. Because doesn't everyone get into some sort of crash? Even my driving instructor's got into 1 or 2 crashes, he said. Had to write off his vehicle. So it's well, if he can get into crashes, then, a newbie, I'm endangering my life by doing this. And if I'm not endangering my life, I'm endangering my money again, because if you crash, then your car is gone and you have to get a new car, and then you probably get some kind of points on your license, so you have to pay for driving lessons again, or pay to take your test again, and maybe pay to take your theory again, and all this shite. That's another fear I have with driving. I don't want to crash, but on my lessons sometimes you're driving around and you suddenly come up to a road marking and it comes up out of absolutely nowhere, and oh, I wasn't ready for that road marking. Just what, this giveaway marking comes out of nowhere where you wouldn't expect there to be a giveaway marking. Doesn't make any sense. And then other times the instructor's telling you that a driver's doing something in your rear mirror, and you look up and you can't tell that he's doing anything, and you're not really sure what to look for or what it is that they were doing. Maybe they were gesturing to you through the window, all dark behind the screen, or maybe they flashed you, or maybe they were moving in a certain way road positionally that indicates something, which is still hard to get to grips with at the moment, so I need to figure out what's going on with that. And then of course there's other things that put me off driving, the stuff that I was fighting anyway as an ANCAP, fighting the SJWs and fighting the authoritarian government bullshit. I've been looking at Jeff buys cars on YouTube, and he's driving through Wales, and they've the SJWs there have instituted 20-mile-an-hour zones across the country, not everywhere, but in tons of places where there weren't any before, and it's just brought all driving in that country to a standstill, and it's just not worth driving there at all, which is their plan, obviously. And then there's the ULEZ and clean air zones. I looked back on Google Street View at the cities I knew so well, Bristol and Bath, and now suddenly they've got these things called CLZs, which are basically ULEZ, where if you go past signs in certain places, and luckily there's a map of it, so I've found a way to draw the edges so I don't have to drive into those places. If you just drive into them with a petrol or diesel car, which I will have, you have to suddenly just pay money just for being there because of leftist environmental bullshit. Greta Thunberg, Antifa, communism shit. And it's war on motorists, it's Klaus Schwab and the WEF and UN's Agenda 2030, it's an extension of lockdowns, which in turn is an extension of the rise of socialism, which exposed itself with third wave feminism, and all these things that I've been fighting have just become more and more encroaching on our daily life, to the point where, hey, there's this part of Bristol where you can't go unless you pay money. And it just popped up out of nowhere. I don't watch TV, and I don't want to watch TV, and I've stopped watching TV years ago. So for me, it pretty much popped up out of nowhere. Just not there one day. Oh, the government's legislating and bringing in bullshit laws that no one needs for a problem that doesn't need to be fixed because it doesn't exist. And now they're just stealing more money off you, like taxation, if you want to drive into your city. And they'll probably think, oh, let's expand these zones. So you either pay to go into a place, or there's the 15-minute cities, what is it, Oxford or something, where if you live one side of the city, you have to pay to go the other side of the city. Or there's the 20-mile-an-hour zones in fucking Wales, where everyone's slowed down to a crawl. And then you pay no tax if your car is environmentally friendly or a certain Euro emissions class or something. And even if you got an electric car, which is terrible, watch Jeff Buys Cars. They'll get rid of petrol and diesel cars and stop you driving those, and then after that they'll just stop you driving electric cars. Not that it matters, because those are intensely controllable anyway, and vastly impractical with the charging points across the country. Just seeing that, I was opening up Google Earth and Google Street View, and I was trying to draw paths for ways I could drive to Bristol, and then I found this clean air zone thing by chance and went, what the fuck is this? I can't drive into Bristol if I get my car. I just can't go there. You can go halfway into the city though. So I was looking for the edge of the zones, drawing them on the map, and then looking for all the different ways I could drive, and they've been really sneaky about where the CLZ you get fined zones are, so that they happen in such places that different ways that you want to drive into the city have been spotted by them, and the clean air zone is expanded out across those roads, meaning you can't sneak by on certain roads to get to the city. You have to take tiny B roads through estates in the nearest town to get to the edges of the city so you can park up. They've been really horrible and controlling and sneaky. You can see what they've done just on the map. Plot your way into Bristol. Try and imagine your car driving into Bristol. You can't go any of the main roads to get in there without being fined. So you can theoretically get into Bristol, but you have to take B roads and little tiny roads through estates in the towns to the northwest after leaving Avonmouth. And then if you manage to navigate your way through all those little housing estate streets, you can get to the edge of Bristol and park up without paying their environmental fine. So they're basically, if you've got a petrol car or a diesel car, they're trying to make you pay money to even get into Bristol for, enviro-communism bullshit. And I'm not doing that. So mostly the cities are off limits to me. I'll park on the outskirts of cities until they expand the zones, but eventually I'm about to try and get a diesel car if I can, and they're about to try and stop everyone having petrol and diesel cars. And it's for nothing. None of this needs to happen, and this is the shit I've been fighting way before I decided to get a car. It drives me fucking nuts. Yeah. So that's what's going on with my driving. I like documenting my life, and that's what I'm doing with my driving vlogs and other vlogs. Anyway, that's where I am in my life, with the big things going on at the moment, spanning before and after Christmas. Let's hope something works out, because else I'm going to turn into I'm going to end up in the situation Harmful Opinions was in a few years back, except without a streaming setup and probably without a way to upload my videos to the internet, unless I just if I film myself on my phone and upload it to YouTube from my phone, then I can keep posting videos even if I get even more fucked over by life than I am right now. There's a bit of a life vlog for you focused on driving. Thank you for watching.